Hey, thanks for joining me today. I'm out in the woods hunting for morels. Today we're gonna do a little bit of a tutorial to talk about the top 5 or 6 things that may be preventing you from finding morels. We're gonna go through some tips and tricks, things that I think beginners make mistakes on that really prevent them from having an awesome day in the woods and finding morels or going home skunked. So let's get into it. Let's go. Look at this group here, guys. We got a group of 3 nice ones. It's a little baby here. However, look up here. There's a few here. Those are all big. Those are kind of small. In my opinion, the first thing that might be stopping you from finding morels is the location. Now, for me, I hunt morels exclusively on the east side of the Cascades. I'm not saying that you can't find them on the west side or in the Coast Range or whatever. There are occasions of that. But for me, predominantly, east side of the Cascades, whether that's Mount Hood, Mount Bachelor, Rainier, St. Helens, whatever. You got to get over on the east side of that. And for me, it's about a 2-hour drive from the Portland metropolitan area. If you don't want to put in that kind of a distance, you're going to have to wait till later in the season as those morels move up in elevation and closer to the mountain. So for me, when I talk about location, I start looking at areas early in the season that are about 2,000 feet in elevation, and each week they're going to go up a couple of 100 feet. So we're at the second week right now of 2,500 foot elevation. It's warm, so I expect that those morels are going to start to go higher. So when you're looking for areas, use Google Maps to know where your elevations are. That's what you're going to start finding is you got to go east of the Cascades. You got to start at 2,000 feet, and they go up from there. So keep that in mind. I got to the top of this ridge. There's some chunkies right here. Check these out. Look at these guys right here. Look at these. Do a little surgery in there because I don't want to upset that little one. Look at these. The second thing that might be keeping you from finding morels is watching your elevation. There's a lot of things that I do when I'm out hunting is I'll start at a certain elevation. If I don't find anything, I don't see any signs, I don't see any companion plants out there, I'll go up 100 feet or down 100 feet, see what's popping there. But if you do find morels at a certain elevation, it's very likely they're going to be popping in other areas of the mountain at that same elevation. So if you have an iPhone, there's a compass app you can use. If you have a GPS, it'll tell you. If you don't have an iPhone, what's wrong with you? No, just kidding. If you don't have an iPhone, you can get a compass app for Android phone as well. GPS as well tells me. So elevation is critical. And so I'm also kind of a Facebook kind of guy. So when I see people posting their stories on Facebook or Instagram and they say, oh, it's May 5th, I found mushrooms at 2,700 feet. I'm going to take a note of that. And I might look on Google Earth to see what areas are around my spots that are at 2,700 feet. I just keep note of that because they're going to start at sea level early in April and then move up from there. And then towards the end of May, they're going to be up at 4,000 feet, 5,000 feet as the snow level drops and the ground temperature goes up. So pay attention to elevation. If nothing else, that's going to be key for finding morels. Look at these. Look at this. We got 3, 4, 5. There's 3 more over here. The next thing that prevents a lot of people from finding morels is tree identification. And for me, these mountain morels love to grow in the grand fir forest. There could be other firs around. There could be Doug firs, it could be ponderosas, could be lodgepole pines, but if you don't have at least the grand firs, I don't find as many. So what does a grand fir look like? So take a look at this. So here's a grand fir. If you look at it from the side, or the needles are flat. They go out both ways. On the underside, they are kind of a dull light green. On top, there's a lot of shine on there. This is what they look like. Here's some bigger ones up here. So get to know this plant, if nothing else, this tree, if nothing else. So what else? What other trees are here? So this is a Douglas fir. You see this guy here? The needles on this one look more like a bottle brush, and they go around in a circle around the tree. They look very similar, but this one you'll also find morels around. Now I'm trying to find Ponderosa. So this is a Ponderosa pine. It's got big chunks of bark on it. Let's take a look at it. Big chunks of bark. It's really tall. It has these long needles in there. But in this forest, we've got lodgepole pines, we got ponderosas, we've even got some scrub oak in here, and all of those trees seem to work together. So if you're in a forest, you don't see any grand firs, you probably need to go a little higher. The one tree that I think that mushrooms in general don't like are cedar. I don't know why, but I never find mushrooms around cedar. That could be me, but if I see a cedar forest, I just keep going. Oh, hold on. Check this out. Look at this. Nice chunky. 2 more there, 3 there, little baby. This is what I'm talking about, guys. Do your homework. Remember where your spots are. Keep a journal. So another thing that I believe prevents people from finding morels is speed. And when people are walking, I mean, when you find morels, slow down, because they typically grow in groups. They grow in a line, and if you find one, the probability of that being just the only one is pretty small. So what I find is a lot of times people will just walk through the forest until they find something, but I'll follow them, and I'll be picking up morels right behind them because they're just going too fast. They're not focused, and they're not deliberate. They're just walking through, just, you know, like they're skipping through the woods at the picnic basket. This is a very focused hobby. So if you're not willing to come out and focus and pay attention and look at every detail with every step, then it's going to prevent you from finding morels. So keep that in mind. When I'm walking, I am scanning, not only close, I am scanning out far. I'm squatting down, I'm looking around, looking for anything that looks like it shouldn't be there, anything that's popping. Because some of these morels, like the blonde ones, they stick out really well, but the brown ones. So this is a grand fir pine cone, right? It's the same size and shape and color as this brown morel. So as I'm looking around, there are thousands of pine cones that are in this patch, and I found 2 brown morels. And the only way that I saw them is I squatted down and I kind of looked around, and all the other pine cones are laying on their side, and these 2 were popping up. So this is what I talk about this is what I mean when you move, you know, with a purpose, You're looking around, you're scanning, you're not only looking down, but you're looking out and around. And sometimes they're right in front of you. But even the blonde morels, if there's an oak forest nearby, they're the same color as the oak leaves on the ground. So it takes a lot of attention to see this stuff. So think about when you're out there, what you're doing, what you're looking for, how valuable these things are. And, you know, you might actually find them. One of the other things that I do when I find a morel, first part of the season, is I'll take a look and I'll stare at it, right? It's kind of a mind trick, I think, that if you stare at it, you're going to get focused on the color and the size and what it looks like. And it helps me find them, at least early in the season. But now that we're mid-season, it's like my radar's just going. So if there's a morel in the area, I'm going to see it. So at least I think I do. I probably walk by a lot too. Nice. So another reason that might be preventing you from finding morels is knowing what indicator species come out around the same time as the morels, or before or after. So one of the big ones for me are strawberries. But check these out. This is what strawberries look like. And when their leaves get about the size of a quarter, that's when the ground, I think, is warm enough for morels to pop up. And this pops up, gets nice flowers. That's when you know the morels are going to be here. But also at the same time, look, in addition to the strawberries and the trillium, we've got grand firs. So we're in a zone here, guys. This is what you know. So learn those companion plants. If you also see the royal cup fungus or any other mushrooms for that matter, it's a good indicator that the morels are going to be here. So learn those indicator species. It'll help you know if you're in the right spot or not. So the last thing that may be preventing you from finding morels, and I think this is the most important one, is planning and doing your homework. If you're out there mushroom hunting and you just say, hey, it's Saturday, let's get in the car, let's drive up to the mountain, we'll just pull over when we find a good spot and we'll just go see what's out there. You know what they call that? That's a hike. So for me, I use Google Earth. I use Onyx maps. I read Facebook pages, things like that, where people are posting mushroom reports and things like that. And I pay attention to elevation. I pay attention to trees. And there are tools like Onyx you can use, or Google Earth, to find out where there are, you know, conifers or deciduous trees and things like that. But plan your work and work the plan. I think that's how it goes. Yeah. Plan your work and work the plan. That's what it is. When I go out, I know exactly where I'm going to go. And I have a plan B and a plan C. Like, for example, this morning I went out to a spot and there was a huge log across the road and I couldn't get around it. That was my plan A. So I said, okay, we're going to plan B. So make sure the roads you're going to are open. Make sure they're not covered with snow. But, and also, you know, keep track of where you go and when you go. So for you know, the future, you can know where those are. So if you don't have a plan, you're most likely not going to find mushrooms. Or if you are, it's going to be hit or miss. And that makes a big difference between being a mushroom hunter and somebody that looks for mushrooms. So hopefully this has helped you, and put some of these into practice. If you have any more comments or questions or suggestions, or you got questions about anything I covered, just leave them in the comments, and I'll respond and help you. Because, you know, when you go from a day of finding 2 or 3 or no morels to a bag like this, look at that bag. It's all because I put these tips into practice, and I do it all the time, and that's why I'm more successful than not. And if I'm not successful, I learn from it. So every trip I go out, I learn something new, and I keep track of it, and I make notes. So when I come back the next year, I'll know whether a spot's good or not, and bypass the stuff that's not.